Diane, I'm listening to a podcast, Black Lodge Trivia Night. I've never heard so many game aspirations in my life.
So anyway, that's when I decided that I should stop collecting my smegma in a mason jar. Oh!
You
Hello,
killed the take I was going to do. You killed it. You killed it.
No, Matt, you still got it. Go for it.
I don't know. It just seems inappropriate now.
No,
what were you
please.
gonna put in
like
what were you going to put in a mason jar?
the Debbie Downer-esque, like, hello and welcome to Black Lodge Trivia Night. The date is November 7th. I'm Matt.
For fuck's sake. I'm Art.
And I'm Patrick.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Black Lodge Trivia Night. It's good to be back. It took us a long time tonight to hit the record button.
It did.
When you get the three of us together, even though we were together 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks. I guess it's been a while, but anyways,
2 weeks, yeah.
You're always together in here, Matt.
That's right.
Always.
So tonight, since we're so full of hot air and full of bullshit tonight, anyways, we thought we would share some of that bullshit with you tonight. So it's a damn fine coffee type of evening tonight. There's been a murder. By the way, I said the exact same line recording history on the table last night, so that'll I'll use that line twice in 1 week.
Been a murder.
So we're talking mysteries tonight and whatever else.
Wait, we're not, but okay.
No,
did you spend a lot of time prepping that rules light?
So many preps.
That rules light pre-generated scenario.
Hey, I had to read it, and then I failed at that too.
Lovely.
Because the internet broke up last week.
It sure did this week. I don't know what it did.
2 weeks ago. Who knows?
Yeah.
So we're gonna be chatting. I'm sure we'll come up with other topics. I'll probably like on the fly. Let's tier list something because we tier listed with Art that one time and that worked so well. I think it did. I think
so.
Are we
yeah.
gonna tier list mystery games tonight? Is that what
Maybe.
we're gonna do?
It's a mystery.
Well, we also
few.
tier listed the original PlayStation, and we tier listed that character from Menace Under Otari.
Classic.
So yeah, let's tier list some stuff and let's damn fine coffee it.
Awesome. Patrick,
I have some trivia tonight.
holy smokes. So before we get down to business,
We have to start the business.
hold on. This is real trivia, right? It's not like some bullshit Auburn sports trivia.
No,
right?
no. I actually have Twin Peaks related trivia.
Twin Peaks, the TV show.
Yes.
Okay.
Not
Pass.
the titty bar.
I'm in.
It's a restaurant.
Well,
Yeah, please.
It's very different.
fine establishment.
Their
Are-
beer is served at 37 degrees Fahrenheit.
Shut the fuck up, man.
They have a thermometer that lets you know the entire time you're there.
I'm not okay.
It's fine.
Would
It's
you-
a fine restaurant. It's not
Would you
bad.
guys? It's. I mean, it's. It is what it is. Would you guys? Are you guys ready?
Yeah,
I'm ready.
Oh.
Since we're talking, well, we'll get to the topic later. Oh, you got one. Nice. Okay.
I'm not lit.
Oh man, son of a. What are you doing, man?
I mean, I
Anyway.
don't have it's not sent from hell. It's a Yankee.
All right,
Candle,
let's
but-
do this. Patrick, give us your trivia.
Okay, here we go.
In what episode of the hit television series The Simpsons
Nice.
is Twin Peaks referenced? What is the Twin Peaks episode
Oh,
of The Simpsons?
It's not a Treehouse of Horror.
It is not.
Okay. So
I
the
will
one
take-
I know best and the one that is my favorite is Dueling Spires from
Okay.
Psych, which is
Yeah.
because they bring in
They do.
the Twin Peaks actors. It's amazing.
Good. So good.
I'm never gonna get. I feel like I've seen more than one though. But is there
It
one
is-
specifically?
Yeah, I'm surprised. Is there?
There is one in particular, and it is one of the most famous episodes of The Simpsons.
So it must be like the most overt one because I'm sure there's other Twin Peaks.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the most overt one.
Okay.
So
I don't know.
So let's take a guess. Simpsons started in like 88.
Yeah.
Twin Peaks is like 89, 90. So it's gonna be season 4, episode 12.
Season 4, episode 12. That's one episode. That's one guess. It's a good guess. Excellent. Matt.
Season 4, episode 13.
Oh, you whore.
You whore. Season 7, Episode 1.
Hmm.
Who shot Mr. Burns? Part 2.
Oh, duh.
Yeah.
Is that a Twin Peaks poll?
In a dream, Chief
Wiggum
is in a surreal setting where he watches a man and a horse dance underneath.
Oh my gosh, I knew this too.
As soon as you said, I was like, oh yeah.
And this is like my peak Simpsons time.
Yeah,
right?
it's
like
the
I'm
best
just
Simpsons.
old enough where I shouldn't be watching it, but my brother gets to watch it, so my parents let me watch it.
Nice.
And like this was
classic Simpsons.
Who Shot Mr. Burns? Was that the first
Maggie.
one? Was that no? I know that. I know who was part
Spoilers.
1 of Who Shot Mr. Burns, episode 1 of a season.
No, season 1 episode or season 7 episode 1 is part 2.
Part 2.
Yes,
okay, okay.
They did a cliffhanger.
I thought it ended on like, and I remember the season finale.
Yeah, it does end on a cliffhanger. So see, I actually have.
Oh, I knew it.
That was
too.
good.
As soon as you said Wiggum, I could.
I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
Even. What does the neon sign say above the dancing man and horse in Chief Wiggum's dream?
Does it say something about Maggie?
No.
Oh, okay. Twin Peaks?
Nope.
I have no idea.
It just says die.
Oh.
And Chief Wiggum says, this is going to take a while to figure out.
Oh,
nice.
man. I genuinely don't know. So for the listeners and the watchers, obviously there's a lot of Twin Peaks love in this podcast. I think it's hard to appreciate how much of an influence Twin Peaks has had on television,
everything,
movies. Yeah. I don't think there was anything quite like it before, and so many things would not exist without it. So anyway, that's, if you want to know,
art wouldn't exist without it.
Me or art like the capital
you,
Da Vinci?
You.
Okay.
Capital A art.
Yeah, no, my
as
parents.
In the person.
My parents got it on because of Twin Peaks. Not really. I was far too old for that.
Maybe I wouldn't exist.
Just turning to the light. Yeah, I mean, I guess, are you the right age? I don't know. We're not going to. I'll tell you my social security number. I will not tell you my age.
And see, I'm the opposite. I'll give you the last 4 of my credit card number. But not my age.
Right, but not my maiden name.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So
Chief Burns has a second. Chief Wiggum, not Chief Burns. Homer watches the horse with the bald guy. Chief Wiggum has a dream with Lisa and says this suit burns. That's the Who Shot Miss. I think The Simpsons is Homer watching Twin Peaks. I don't think that happens during Who Shot Mr. Burns.
I was told we weren't going to be fact checked.
Yeah. I may have used ChatGPT to come up with that question. To say, I said, because I figured, I was like, there's got to be a Simpsons Twin Peaks gag, and it got the episode right.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Damn, is there not a way to bring in a?
We'll fix it in post.
Bring in a YouTube video. I was going to use our 10 seconds of critical analysis to get the Simpsons clip in here, but that's okay.
Hey, it's fair use if we talk over it.
That's right.
Can do that later. That's what. So here, viewers, is where the clip of the Simpsons is going to go for 10 seconds, and we'll talk over it. So Matt, how is the weather in Kansas right now?
No, we can talk about the clip.
You have to talk about the clip. It has to be analysis or parody.
Or parody.
So, yeah. You can either make fun of it or you can analyze it. Or we could just react. We're all headed there anyway. Perfect. I've already ranted about that. So, anyway, I feel like we have a topic tonight.
We do?
We do. Let's bring it back in. We'll clean this up in post because I've been distracted for the last 3 minutes trying to find the right Simpsons clip. So there's actually two Simpsons clip. One, Homer watching Twin Peaks, and 2, Who Shot Mr. Burns. Chief Wiggum goes into the Black Lodge and interacts with Lisa.
Incredible.
Absolutely incredible. But tonight we're talking about mysteries. And so this, I guess, to like bring it back into the real world or a little more serious. It's not like a serious topic, but I saw it posed somewhere. I don't even remember where. I can't credit it. But it's, how do you deal with the fatalism of mystery RPGs? And that's probably a fair critique of all RPGs, unless you're really doing like a fly by the seat of your pants improv. We'll see what happens as we do it. But I think the one core component of any good mystery RPG, for the most part, is solid clues and the unraveling of the mystery. It's why we read mystery books. It's why we watch mystery movies. It's to prove that we're smarter than the narrator and we figured it out before the book's over. Or we just love the twists and the turns. But to accomplish that well, I think generally you want everything to be predetermined. Now, there's exceptions to that, right? I mean, flying by the seat of our pants in English Eerie when Art kills off one of your main side characters, or when we did oh my gosh, what's the I can never remember the name of the jazz RPG.
Oh, Midnight Melodies.
Midnight Melodies, right? That was very much me and you flying by the seat of your pants.
Completely.
You know, and so, but it still had a good mystery. So I don't think this isn't like every mystery RPG is bad because it's predetermined, and you know, like you can have some improv, but I think to really be like a true mystery, I think you need that. I don't know. Am I way off base?
Well, I mean, life is predetermined. So, I mean, it's just life imitating art or art imitating life.
Okay.
So,
But like if you're playing like a crunchier rule system, right? If you're playing Call of Cthulhu,
sure,
and you want to milk the system for what it's worth, you probably want to have those things predetermined. You want the clues, you want the spider web, or you're not utilizing the mechanics. It's kind of like Art and I have been playing Liminal Horror, which has been amazing. But I think you've rolled once, and I have no problem with that,
Right.
because we're telling what I think is a fantastic story, and it will come at some point, and it's a mystery to you, but there's no resolution, or there's no like resolution to find out if you get clues or not. I don't know. It was an interesting question. I don't know if we'll solve it tonight, but do you guys have any thoughts?
So just understand to frame is the fact that there has to be a predetermined answer. It's not like an open sandbox,
right?
You know, there is. So I will say this. I don't know. No. So I'll say this. What I think. And I think when the idea first came up, this is something I threw out there because I like to sound erudite.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, again, we talked about, it's the idea of plot versus story. And I never remember which one's which, but one is the actual events that are occurring in the world. And then the other is how the character experiences the events occurring in the world.
The latter would be the story.
Yeah. There you go. Right. So that's why, like, is it okay to spoil The Sixth Sense? I don't know. Is that an okay thing to do?
Oh my God.
Yeah,
is
I
he
think
dead?
it's safe.
I think it's safe. Okay. So like, that's the thing. Like, you know, we don't know. Well, actually, it's a bad example because I feel like it breaks that rule of the characters. It doesn't matter. But you know, the way you get a good twist is, you know, because the main character doesn't know what's going on, but it doesn't mean it wasn't going on. And so I actually feel like maybe it's because I tend to gravitate towards mystery investigation kind of games, but it's how I sort of approach any role-playing story. I just have this thing is like, this is happening, like, you know, because it's part of being in a world, whether it's a mystery or not. The world, if you're telling a story in a setting, what I like to do is I imagine, like, spoiler alert, coming out soon is a Bookhouse Boys on Harn, and I go a little bit into the thing I was running. And it's not a mystery per se, but I knew like this was happening here, buried over there is that. And those things were predetermined. I guess the difference is that in a mystery, the characters are fueled to find those things out, where in my story, it doesn't matter.
Right. That's an important element. What RPG doesn't have a little bit of mystery of it? We're playing to see the the story unfold. That's part of the mystery, right? Whether we're
Right.
playing your M-Space game art, or you guys are doing Oceans Under Atari, or we're doing Call of Cthulhu, like, we want to know what the story is. But when you buy into a mystery, like, broadly speaking, and I'm completely talking out of my ass here, right? Like, but when I read a mystery, I want the things to fall into place. Like, that's
Mhm.
the importance of playing it. When I'm playing a mystery RPG, I want it to be like Agatha Christie, or like, and that's not the
Mhm.
best example, but like, that is a good example for arts. Like, there's ongoing things. The plot is happening regardless of what the players do. If you look at, and then there were none, because like, things are happening in that story and you don't see it. That being said, so like, I think the ask is different. Like, any good RPG, whether it's fantasy or sci-fi, is going to have mystery elements to unfold the story, the unknown. But there's a difference when you're playing a mystery. You want to weave that web and crack the clues, right? I mean, that's, I guess, some of the. It's
And
just. I think it just means it's hard to pull off.
yeah, I was just about. I'm gonna feed off of that because I think the hardest thing about playing a mystery RPG is your actions are based on a die roll. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what makes mysteries so hard to pull off in an RPG setting. I think is because I think back to Call of Cthulhu, right? I ran the Call of Cthulhu game. The mysteries are there for you guys to find. The clues are there for you guys to find. And maybe that's just, we've talked about Call of Cthulhu and why we broke up with it and everything. But the things are there for you to find, but you can't find them unless you roll the die, right? Or unless you hit a success, or, and I don't know if giving those clues with a failed die roll or what have you, it I think personally, again, personal opinion here, that lessens the impact of the mystery, right? Because if you're going to get the clue all along, why'd you roll for it?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. So that's again, I've mentioned before, I'm always been skeptical of like Trail of Cthulhu because I'm just like, oh, I'm just
mhm,
going to buy it. Okay.
yeah,
Like, you know, but
yep,
I will say this though. I think I found like I tend to gravitate towards running mysteries, even
mhm,
when it's not like
Mm-hmm.
a murder mystery. It's always like what's out there that,
Yep.
like like in the spy game, it's like I need you to compromise the British character.
mhm,
And but you're starting so compromising the British character isn't a mystery in and of itself, but like he doesn't come home that first night and then you don't know where he is. And
mhm,
so like you tease these little things. What I've often found, I'm not I don't subscribe to the idea that which I think Call of Cthulhu hangs too much weight on, like what do you do if like they fail a die roll to get a clue? I've always found my players to be really resourceful.
mhm,
Yeah.
Like in M Space, it was a mystery that we started with on a space station. And I don't think you guys are finding almost any of the clues. And so even if I have to throw it out there in an obvious way, I think as long as you are good at like sleight of handing it a little bit,
mhm,
because in the end, your players are going to tie everybody up to a chair and take them hostage.
right,
So like, that's how that mystery was resolved. And I trust the players to get there.
mhm,
And I don't worry personally too much about the mechanics. I think there are people that
Sure.
like, well, the mechanics tell me I need to do this. So I
yeah,
just, I guess I don't know what to do. And you're just like, okay.
Well, that's how you balance the two, right? I mean, that's the thing. The two things that are odds here is you're telling a mystery, and if you've crafted a mystery, no matter the setting, you've predetermined X, Y, and Z lead to A, right? You've already, again, unless you're playing a rules light thing that you fly by the seat of the pants, you've crafted
mhm,
this mystery. So, but then you're playing an RPG, which I understand that RPG is collaborative storytelling with rules,
mhm,
but you also, one of the beauties of an RPG is you're rolling dice because you're you you don't want the results to be predetermined. You like the what's going to happen. There's uncertainty
mhm,
here. But when you're playing a mystery RPG, you've already predetermined the things that need to happen or need to be uncovered. But so then it's you solve those two things of being at odds by trusting your players. And a thing
mhm,
we've always talked about that you guys know I'm a big fan of, if clue A is here, clue A needs to be picked up, whether no matter how you get that to the players mechanically, I think we're
Yeah.
all fans of the players get the clue no matter what.
Yep.
You pick up clue A and you put it over in the gas station because the players have refused to visit the Zaxby's, right?
Yeah.
You just have to adjust. And that's how I think you balance the two things that are odds. You're playing a game that's not predetermined, but you've predetermined all of these fact things that need to unfold to get the best story out.
The results are determined. How you get there isn't.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like it's you gotta fly by the seat of your pants sometimes to get to the results. But the results, you know what they're going to find. You know what they're going to find in the black book, whether the black book is on the table in the dining room or at the Zaxby's, next to the wings and things meal.
Can I throw two things out there?
Yeah.
And I just throwing it out there as almost like devil's advocate. Is it actually, like in on some level is a mystery? It's just a MacGuffin storytelling, right? Like, is it any different from getting the crown at the end of the dungeon? And the second thing I want to bring up, we've all talked about how like sometimes we like a good railroad. Like we kind of actually,
yeah.
Are RPGs collaborative storytelling? Or is it just,
yes.
Is it just reacting?
Well, it depends. And it's a scale.
I mean, it depends on the
right?
system.
Sure.
Well, sure. But it's just a variable scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our Pathfinder game, I would say, is largely not collaborative other than you guys have collaborated by throwing Patrick's character on top of a fountain of death, right? Like, but then, so there you're collaborating with the story, but you're not collaborating with the plot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then if you take English Eerie, we're literally crafting the plot.
Right.
It's playing in the world or with the world.
Yeah.
I think it's if you're collaborative storytelling, you're more in playing with the world, which is English Eerie, which is conspiracist, which is anything like
What's
that.
that map building? What's the map building game?
I know you. Man, I have it. I'm never gonna think of it.
That's okay.
But like Fate and PBTA, all of these systems.
Any of the
sure,
the
and that's
rules
just a different,
Yeah.
scale of it, right? So I think, just one thing I want to, we've talked about, Patrick, and I know you haven't had a chance to play it, is just how well liminal horror does mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things it does is presents the GM with this doom track that has the flexibility to present clues.
Okay.
Yeah, we should talk about how games approach it. Yeah.
Right. And it's not that Art needs to ideally Art walks into the lobby of the hotel, right? Because that's a setting you want it to. Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. I'm sorry. Does he walk into the lobby of
or
the
does he
hotel?
park?
Or does he park in the lobby of the hotel? Sorry.
We hand waved parking.
You hand waved.
It's rules light, so we didn't want to
Okay,
be too crunchy.
All right. Sorry, I had to.
God, we need that as a t-shirt. So we just either need something that references, or we just need we need a picture of a car parked in a lobby. Just either one of the two, please.
Perfect.
And just for the record, for the people that don't listen to her, I was right not to hand wave parking.
No, never hand wave.
No, you
parking.
suggested hand waving parking. You're like, well, hand wave parking. It's like, oh no, we won't.
No.
I was exactly wrong. That's what it was.
That was the clarion call for the rest of this of the session, and every session since then is don't hand wave parking. Never hand wave parking.
I know I've beaten this point to death, but just to finish my thought, in English Eerie, like I want my story to take place in the lobby. But it doesn't have to. I mean, the whole point of doing it in the lobby is like you've walked in this hotel where things are very off base. And so like I want to do that because I think that tells an amazing story. And it's got this doom track and they may call it something else, but essentially these things are happening. And that is what pushes the story forward. But one, they're only a guide, you don't have to use them. And two, they're adaptable. And so they're predetermined. But you can have that interaction with the sheriff's deputy walking in covered in blood. That can happen anywhere you want, but it's still giving you those seeds, and it's less specific than something like an old Call of Cthulhu where like they have to go to what's the voodoo shop in Louisiana? Madame whatever's, the famous one.
Trudeau's.
Madame Trudeau's, right? They have to go to Madame Trudeau's to go find a copy of the King in Yellow manuscript, like, again, you can just pick up that manuscript and move it, but in Call of Cthulhu, it's more like explicit, like this is where you should have them go, and it's a little more older way of thinking. And so, like, if you're new to GMing, you're like, oh, I got to get these players to Madame Trudeau's so they can get this clue. Whereas, anyways, I know that's like a point that I keep belaboring, but I think it's the key to really good role playing as a whole for both player and GM. I think the players have to be able to adapt just as much as the GM, of course. So,
well, I think that Doom track idea might be worth digging into a little bit, because English Eerie has a Doom track, the Grey Ladies. Every time a Grey Lady turns up, it doesn't just escalate the tension. That's, Matt, you've run it. That's when you have a predetermined time to give them a big clue.
Yep. Yeah.
And you can choose from a list.
Make your own.
You can make your own. And when we play it collaboratively, but it's there's a lot of openness to it, but there is a timer. And I think Midnight Melodies even had something like that too, right? When you hit a certain number of notes.
Yep. Yeah. When you finished a melody, you progressed. So I guess the important thing of that is you have these important predetermined or not predetermined, they could be whatever. The important plot points of your mystery are what keep the mystery moving forward. So your players are not stuck riding the fountain for 3 nights because they don't know where to go. It gives you these plot devices that can happen wherever or however to just keep things moving. And that's an important thing with mysteries, right? I know we play these fragmented games because we only play in 2-hour sessions, which I like, but then also it does mess with pacing. And I think the good thing of any good mystery is pacing. Like, I enjoy a good slow burn mystery, but I also enjoy something that's like constant, ramped up shit. Spooky shit's happening constantly. It's like a really good episode of Haunting of Hill House where you're just like scared shitless and you're like, what the, anyways.
Can I just posit a question? We talked about Liminal Horror, Midnight Melodies, all these English Eerie, a lot of games, what they did is they mechanized the pacing of a mystery.
Yeah.
Did Call of Cthulhu mechanize the wrong part of a mystery? It mechanized the investigating in a very clunky way. And we didn't need help with mechanics to investigate. I think what we need, or am I misunderstanding, like, because there's like library checks, there's all these things where it's like, we don't need to have mechanics for the process of an investigation. What we need. Oh, so go ahead. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I think you go into Call of Cthulhu like that is a part of Lovecraftian storytelling, right? Like, that's in order to capture that part of the Lovecraft story, which is, I must go to the library, like, to find the unspeakable horrors and find the Necronomicon and like figure out the unthinkable knowledge or find the unlearnable clue. Like, that's part of that whole mythos, right? Whereas playing English Eerie, there's spooky shit happening at the end. Like, it's your not run of the mill, but it is a more standard I think it's just baggage that Call of Cthulhu has to carry, basically. Is where I'm going with that. Is the investigation is just like expected, and they wanted to make it a part of the game. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then, based on that, like, and obviously, again, I'm just throwing, curveballs out there. In that sense, on the most obvious level, yes. But in that sense, is like Call of Cthulhu really an investigation game? Because the game is more about falling into horror and losing it, right?
Yeah.
If that's the narrative path the game is supposed to take, is it really an investigation game? Because the investigation is how they often want you to get there, but it isn't really like English Eerie. It's the or Liminal Horror. The path you're supposed to take is the investigation, in my mind. Or maybe I'm just giving it all too much credit, though. I'm just dunking on.
That's an interesting point, because I feel like it wants to do both, but then you'll find a scenario where it doesn't do both, or you end up in a scenario where the players don't necessarily want to do both.
Mhm.
One of the GM job in Call of Cthulhu is remind players to go do things like go to the library. I think it's fine to mechanize that, but you also have to want to be playing that game. What's cool about Call of Cthulhu is you can be an antique dealer and have skills that are relevant to that and go put them into practice if you want to be. But the
Right.
problem is if you roll up an antique dealer and you want to go shotgun people in Innsmouth, you can do that, but then you're also just taking a large chunk of the whole Call of Cthulhu experience out of the game. Like,
Yeah.
and no, this is a fine scenario. There's nothing wrong with it. But like, if the scenario is you're on a boat and you end up on a lighthouse and there's been a murder, and then you're shotgunning fishmen, spoilers for a Call of Cthulhu scenario, then yeah, you probably didn't need to bring your like antiques assessment
Yeah.
skill on that character, and so that can be disappointing. I think it's fine to mechanize investigation, but I don't know, and maybe it's just because I'm trying to think like liminal horror, like what you've seen so far, nothing has been mechanized other than I've revealed to you like there is this progression track going on in the background, right? Like we've been very, very rules light in that game.
Right.
I don't know. So maybe like what is that? Does that mean that these other games have mechanized the plot points?
Yeah. Well, and like Savage Worlds does that too. They have their plot points.
Mhm.
And I think what, and again, to Call of Cthulhu's credit, it, broke ground and it's been around forever.
Right.
All these games wouldn't have been able to learn without Call of Cthulhu existing beforehand. So it's, but yeah, I think what we've started to drift toward is that I think it's more important for GMs to control plot, pacing, things like that, than to worry about how the players get there.
Mhm.
And I feel like, because like in liminal horror, like, you sort of set up, and maybe this is the thing, is like I don't know what's going on in the background, and it's like a lot of magic that's making it so awesome. But like liminal horror,
No, there's not that much going. No, really. I mean,
Okay.
there's not. It's just a good story, and we've gotten out of the way, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know if this is the case, but I, reading old traveler adventures and stuff like that, sometimes I feel like what I'm reading is the work of somebody who wants to be like a short story writer. And instead they're writing RPG adventures, right? And, the level of control has to be different. How you approach the creation of it has to be different. Because I've read adventures, some of these older school games where it's just like, the players do this, they do this, they do this, they do this. And I'm like, I don't think you can say that, they're going to do that.
Right. That's a
But
lot of old Call of Cthulhu scenario problems, like the old ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and again, like what we were saying is like, without that to make people go like, wait a minute, wait. Like we wouldn't get things like, maybe we would, but like the evolution where now you've got investigation RPGs that focus on whether you call it a Doom track or Grey Lady
Mhm.
or, the right chord in Midnight Melodies, you realize, I feel like we've been able to understand what's truly important in gaming these stories as opposed to straight up telling them.
So here's something that I think's in between that I know both of you guys have played or ran, and that's Basin.
Mhm.
Whereas it felt like to me that the investigative part comes through in the story unfolding, and I've only done the introduction scenario, but the mechanical, the closest thing to the mechanical investigation in Call of Cthulhu, where you go to the library and research clues, is kind of hand waved broadly in the beginning of Basin. Like, what did your character do to prepare, and how are you going to use that to an advantage to you? Then when you get into Basin, you're watching the story unfold. And I don't know if mechanically there's things that move that story along, or if you need to, if the characters on their own need to find those plot points. Like, in the introduction scenario, I don't know, is there anything that will force the player to go upstairs or something like that? Or is that just something that you have to trust your players doing your own? I don't know. But the investigative part feels like it's this general, like, okay, you know, those first 3 sessions of your Call of Cthulhu scenario, we're going to hand wave that and tell us what that looks like. I had fun doing that, being like, oh, I consulted these manuscripts and I looked into this, into that, just to prep and then use that later to my advantage. And I like that. Because it gives you that, it gives you, if I was playing an antique stealer, it lets me do the antique stealer thing for a little bit, right? Like it gives my characters skills a little bit of time to shine, and you can go into as little detail as much as you want, or role play it or not, it doesn't really matter. Or you can just kind of say like, oh, I sharpened my daggers, let's fucking go. I'm gonna stab some bitches. Sorry, people.
I think we all know it. I think anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I did not mean literally. Yeah, right.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think the interesting thing with Vaesen, man, I feel so terribly about this because it's very faint in my memory at this point. One, I loved it, but two, I think Vaesen, and I think we might have talked about this a little bit, it does end up having that one problem where in order to defeat the Vaesen, you need to find something very specific out.
And there's nothing that pushes the players into that, right? Like from what I remember, I had to discover that on my own. Patrick, you've played the same scenario.
Same scenario.
We've all played the intro scenario, and I think so. I'll say this. Part of what I enjoy, I'll say, like I said this when we were running liminal horror, it might be my favorite kind of like investigating spooky stuff. Might be what I think RPGing is best for me. When I'm running it, I will say that when I read the adventure, and this is actually kind of why I'm curious, someday I would really like to try running Call of Cthulhu to see if I would do the same thing. Because I look at the adventure and I'm like, okay, I know that the players need to find something out. And I need to make sure I have a couple of natural ways for that to happen.
Yeah. Yep.
And, you know, and yeah, I don't know. And so like to get you upstairs is one example.
Oh, right? Art, you have no problem getting me upstairs.
It's happening. It's gonna happen right here on camera, boys. No, it's but yeah, the idea, like, you know, I was trying to make sure, like, I think when I was running it, it's actually recorded, so there's proof of how wrong I'm about to be. But I feel like I had the daughter come down and have an argument with her father.
You did, yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily written into the adventure. Maybe it is, but you know, my intention was that, okay, I need to have something narratively logical that will draw attention to something without it being high beams and a blinker, you know.
That's the fragility of those games, right? There's two things, I think. One, Vaesen, you need to find the weakness. And I kind of remember, like, I got close enough on the weakness that you kind of gave it to me, which I think, again, is just good GMing, right? Like, you're not going to tell a player, oh, no, it's not weak to graveyard ash. It's actually only weak to Traeger smoker
right
ash remains. Like, what? No, like, come on. Like, if your players come up with a creative, like, oh, you know what, I bet this Vaesen is weak to the bells from the church. And if they come up with a lot of, fuck yeah, it's weak to the bells of the church. Absolutely. Like, let them feel smart. And the other fragility part is you don't beat the Vaesen in Vaesen, and you don't beat the things in Call of Cthulhu. Now, I'm going to tell you, there's horrors in liminal horror you may or may not beat, and that's fine, but it's more of just like, liminal horror is more about not facing monsters, but it's liminal horror, so it's the fear of facing the unknown, right? And maybe it's just the style of mysteries. But anyways, my point being is that I think to make Vaesen really shine, you have to be flexible in that if the resolution to your story it hinges on fact A, you need to make fact A like lowercase a, cursive a, little a with the squigglies over it. Like, you gotta be,
because it doesn't matter. Like,
no, let your players feel smart.
Yeah. And I will say, for me personally, like, one of the things that really drew me into RPGs is I just want to know what happens.
Yep.
You know, like,
let's tell a story.
Yeah. And that's kind of where I was going with, like, you know, is the same as any MacGuffin storytelling. Like, for me personally, I just want to know what happens. Like, I I want to know why the fish are disappearing under Otari, which is a mystery, wrapped in a dungeon crawl, but you don't need, I feel like it's probably a very prevalent narrative device. And I feel like the time when it trips us up the most is when, like with Cthulhu, is like, oh no, we need to be an investigation.
Yeah.
But I feel like half the time we're investigating something anyway.
Yeah.
And like in Medicine under Otari, we're going to find the answer if we get to the last room.
Right.
And so that's why I was wondering if it, is it, excuse me, is it really a collaborative, because it is all of it just getting to the last room? And then if that's the case, I don't know, is it really like, do you need to have, you're just going to get there, right? Like everybody's in this together. And so I guess I don't have anything interesting to say.
No, I think that's a good point, right? It just means that the pacing and how you get to the last room, meaning not how do you discover the last room, but what's the journey to get to the last room?
Right.
Yeah, I think you could play the most rules light, rules non-existent system in the world, and it's your players are going to find ways to get to the last room, right? Like,
right.
I'm trying to think through some of the super rules lights. Like Into the Odd. I know we didn't play very much of it, but like you're just rolling a d6. Like there's nothing to that game. There's 2 pages of rules in the whole goddamn book.
Right.
Like, you're gonna go and investigate. You're gonna find ways to go look at things. Like, oh, I'm gonna go look at the body in the corner. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. In Call of Cthulhu, there's 14 pages on, how do you look at the rule? How do you go and investigate the body? Do you check the thaumaturgy book from the library? 6, there's a whole process flow to it. But in the end, you're still doing the same thing. You're gonna go look at the body in the corner. Like, it's the mystery is what your character is doing, not the roles, I guess.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
We're just talking about how like we're all like inherently driven in a role-playing game to want to get to that next room and to want to know what's happening. Like, how bad did Call of Cthulhu fuck it up that's the one game where I'm like, I don't want to know any of this.
Yeah.
I was just saying, like, I don't think I've ever experienced a game where I'm in character thinking I actually would be getting out of here now. I wouldn't want to know what happens.
Well, and I think the problem with Call of Cthulhu that we came into was maybe our external knowledge of, we're playing Call of Cthulhu, like we're all going to go insane. Like, what would a street cleaner and a MTV like cleaning crew want to do with this
right
situation? Like, maybe if I'm sitting there in that situation as a reality TV person, like I'm going to be, driven like a fucking moth to a flame. Like, oh, what is happening? Why are there rats in the goddamn trees? Like, like.
And I feel like I feel like I'm being very disparaging to Call of Cthulhu, and
it's fine because then the Call of Cthulhu trope is like when you try to leave, you get stuck. Which, like, if you know Call of Cthulhu, then that's the thing, right? Like, here's the thing. What this is making me realize more than anything is that pacing is important, and like, because if you have a good story but it's hampered by pacing, and please do not take these as criticisms. At all, like legitimately, that's not my intent, because I fuck up all the time. I'm not like, I'm very, very far from perfect. There's way better things I could do, and what it's making me realize is that, like, when the players are in a hurry, your story should be in a hurry. Yep. And I do not mean this in any negative way, but playing M Space last week or whatever, right? Like, and the players were doing different things, and whereas above table Matt wanted to know what was happening on the spaceship, I determined, I was like, my character doesn't want to know. He wants to get done with this job, and he wants to get to the bridge. And like, and I understand there's 2 other players playing, right? And they want to investigate. What I realized then is, like, if I had 3 players telling me, like, we're going to the bridge, we're going to the bridge, we're going to the bridge, fuck all this stuff, we're not looking at these rooms, I'm not describing the rooms anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're in a fucking hurry. Like, you see this big hallway, like, you don't, and like, and that, again, that the reason I bring this up is just because it's the most recent. But like, my player was like, I want to get to the bridge, and I was just like jonesing to get to the bridge, and I could not give 2 fucks less about like what the bedroom description was. Now, there were 2 other players that wanted to see it, so they're going to go see it. But like, this is just making me realize that, like, personally for me, that mystery is better with like how my character is acting.
Well, and I think that's like any kind of media that has a mystery in it. You're making me think of, like an Alien. When Ripley's running through Nostromo, like they're not stopping to like, oh, what's in this room? Like
Right,
like
exactly.
the camera is shaking, she's running, and the sirens are going off, and she's going from one point to the next point. Like, it's the mystery portion of that is done. You've entered the panic portion of the
Right.
story, right?
Mhm.
Like,
And again, that's why it's not a critique, because I understand like art, you're balancing 3 players, but I was just
Mhm.
thinking it's like for this character, it would be better if we were doing this, this, and this. And I think that's a fine line to walk. Is anyways,
Mhm.
I don't like that's something I would like to get better at, is like
Mhm.
reading the players' pacing and also maintaining a good pacing, because pacing is also important for like horror as well.
Mhm.
If you want to really try to spook people, and we don't play very seriously anyways, but if you really wanted to spook people, you got to pace it well, and you got to give breaks, and you got to rise, and you got to fall. But
Mhm.
Well,
like,
I will. Sorry. Go ahead.
just real quick, and again, I'm not picking on people, but that rat scenario, that
Mhm.
first house, if there was rising tension and then it fell and then it built back up, but the problem
Mhm.
is it rose. We go in this house. Oh, what are we going to find? There's a locked room, and then it was 8 rooms of nothing.
Right.
That 8 rooms of nothing killed the
It killed it.
pacing, right? I
Yeah,
mean, it
it did.
did.
It did.
And that's not that's the scenario design fault, but like how much better would it be if it's like, oh, okay, you kind of hand wave some of the rooms, and like you guys don't think you're
Mhm.
gonna see anything, and then you walk in like I don't know, like I don't know how you would
Well,
do
and
it.
I think too, that scenario, I think I tried to this is a critique on myself. I think I drew that scenario out way longer than it needed to be. Like, I mean, how long did it take us to play that scenario? Like 6 sessions or something?
Yeah, but I don't.
And it's a 4-hour
But we all do
convention
that
game.
though.
Like, I know, but it's meant, that scenario is meant to be a 4-hour convention game. So you're supposed to be pushing your players through. Like, oh, okay, you poke your head into this room, it's locked. Okay, you break the door down. Oh yeah, it's just there's just papers and stuff in there. Like, like, oh yeah, the house is clean. Like,
Yeah, I
oh, and
think you
this is
just say
part of
that
that.
like the house is spotless. It's
Right.
you start to go room by room, and like we did some interesting things, but anyways, it's just a realization that I'm having on like this. You pick up clues, you be adaptable, but also how the player character acting should drive the pace of how you are GMing.
Hmm.
I'll say not in defense of the M space. I think the interesting thing that raises is the characters, like you were saying, the characters, and this is sort of going to tie back to what you were saying about Call of Cthulhu, where if like you try to leave, you get stuck, which is sort of what I was getting at. Maybe the game should be about just hand them the thing they want to run from, and then
Yeah.
make the game be about them getting stuck. I don't know. I think with the M space thing, if you were to just say, I think the way I saw it as different was that, something on this ship is broken in a way that doesn't seem normal.
Yeah, of
And
course.
so I think like so I think my intention was like, I'm going to say like, you're going to walk from A to B, and it's
Mhm.
going to require you getting through these 3 rooms,
Right.
and nobody's required to stop and look at anything. But I think what I was in my mind, what I was like, it's hard to avoid how these things are odd.
Oh
And
no.
so I wasn't letting the players, I think, but I also wasn't going to make I wasn't going to make the other guys like go through every single bedroom or,
Right. Then that's, and again, remember, you
yeah.
had to deal with 2 players who wanted to look in the bedroom and 1 player who's not. There's no way to like you can't do that as a GM unless you're like you
Right.
start telling 2 different stories. And so like it's not a fair ask. All it made me realize, it's not a critique of what happened that night, because yes, you need to know the interesting things in the room because you're telling a story. It's not like, oh, Matt's character's in a rush, let's just cut out 5/10 of my story because
Mhm.
Matt's trying to rush through it, like his character is all jacked up and wants to go. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it made me realize like, oh shit, if all three of us were rushing through this, I think the story would be different, and I think it should be different. If all three of us are like go 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 go, then I think you adapt, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with the rat deal. Like you adapt because they're looking in rooms that are all the same, and you realize that they're going to hit their. Again, this is not critiques of GMing. It's just things that I'm realizing. Like, I hope I can implement by playing these things.
Mhm.
Please, hopefully you do not, because that was not my point. And again, 2 of the 3 players wanted to look at everything, so that's obviously fine.
But that raises the question, like, should the players determine the pacing? Because they don't. So like, here's the thing, right? Like,
that's a fair point.
So like again, for the M space thing, like if you guys were in a rush, I would hand wave parking. There are certain things that I would not have brought up, but there are certain things you're going to see. You're going to run into the obstructed hallway.
Yep.
And then there's going to be the the jump scare that there's going to be bodies, and there's going to be that cheap jump scare in the bridge of the dead cat.
Yeah.
So like there's certain things that are, but I wouldn't have like, you find there's a bunch of bedrooms. There is a body over there, but you keep going. Okay.
Right.
But there, the thing though, I think, so then let me ask you this, the whole reason. So if I allow, say, the players to control the pacing, and then the lack of knowledge gets them killed.
That's the story though, right?
Yeah. You've told a story, like,
right.
I guess if you don't mind like a, or like a TPK.
If it's not, as long as it's not like a cheap kill, right?
Right.
You're right. I didn't think about that. Players maybe shouldn't be the end all be all of pacing.
Right. Just devil's advocate stuff.
No, I think it's good because as one point, like as the player, obviously I feel like, oh, I want to move at this pace. If it was just me in there, like I want to be rushing through this shit. I don't want to know what happened. I want to get the job done. I want to get out of there. I don't want to be eaten by space monsters. But okay, Patrick stepped away for just a minute. That's interesting because the players don't, if we go back to the fatalism, right? Everything's predetermined. The players don't know the clues. The players don't know the plot points. And if they rush through those things, then you're going to miss through some very wonderful stories. So I think you're balancing player pacing. And when I mean player pacing is like, if someone's bored at the table, you can address, like, that's just who they're going to be. But if they're actively pushing their character in a certain way, you should play to their strengths a little bit. You can't make the game all about them. But I don't know. I know I'm talking in circles here, but it does. I think you're right. It needs to be a balance between GM pacing, realizing what your player needs are, and being adaptable. Because so maybe that point is it's okay to be on rails, but the players are in control of the speed. But it's like the owner of Bass Pro Shop has this land in Missouri, down in Branson, and he's got this thing called Top of the Rock. It's a pretty cool tour. You hop in a golf cart and you drive through these beautiful bluffs. Okay, you're driving through very picturesque. There's waterfalls, and you hop in the golf cart and you're going downhill. It's like, oh shit, we're gonna be cruising. The regulators on those things are at about 7 miles per hour. Okay. So like maybe that's the point. Like you put your players on the track, right? But the track winds and it's not straightforward. And you think you give them the ability to press down on the speed, but you have a regulator.
Right. And like on some level, again, if you'll excuse me, like a lot of people, like the idea of a story is just like the obstacles that are thrown in front of you, and your character is how you approach overcoming them. So the idea, like, so in the cases, in say like the rat, I feel bad, the Call of Cthulhu rat one.
Scritch
Scratch. I think the trick with the house is that there were no obstacles.
Yeah.
I think with this spaceship and M space, the obstacles are not well, sometimes it's literally you can't get through the door. But I think the obstacles are something's very wrong. And I don't know, pacing is still important. So, but I think something I have to remember is like what really constitutes an obstacle. and what is just like window dressing. And like, I think the player pacing stuff really can be, with the window dressing, you can just sort of like, the lights are very spooky, but maybe, I don't know. Is there certain things that as much as the player wants to move quicker, you, again, just spitballing, do you need to jam them up a little bit?
Yeah, I think you do.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm eager, if I'm like, if you want to tell a story and my character's ruining it, right? Because, and again, I wasn't acting malicious. I don't think. I just had like the mindset was I want to get in and get out.
Which doesn't
Okay.
mean you can, but that's what your character wants.
You start climbing up the ladder and you like, there's a jutting piece of metal where someone ripped out and like the metal cuts me, or something like that. Or, one of my favorite cheap scares I ever did was in my very first session when the players tried to leave the house with their friend that was haunted, and the ghosts of the house pick up the body and fling it back into the house. And I'll never forget, our friend Duck was like, choo choo. I was like, well, this is my first session, but okay. But also, like, I loved that. But you can't do that every time. So, like, you got to find, I think, new and creative ways to get them back on the rails and hinder them, to slow them down a little bit without it feeling like without a snowstorm in Scratch. Now, I did the same thing in Liminal Horror, where it was freezing rain, right? But the reason I did freezing rain is because I wanted to give you the option to completely nope the fuck out of there. Like, that was a viable option for you because we're existing in this real world where something spooky is going on, and I didn't want to wreck your car. But I wanted you to stop at the hotel because I think it's an awesome story. If you had kept going, we would have done something else. But the mystery I wanted to do was inside this hotel. And so I was like, I'm going to do freezing rain because I think it presents this. If you go on, it's going to be real shitty for you. And so that's kind of the thing. If you go on and you keep rushing at this pace, you're going to get fucked up here. You're going to hurt yourself. I don't know. That's how I would do it.
I have to be honest with you. When we were playing that first session, I was like, I think I'm supposed to, I mean, hopefully you take this the way I mean it. Like, I think I'm supposed to be going into the hotel.
Yeah, right. Of course.
But the way I was like, maybe he wants me to keep driving so I get stuck on the road. Like, I wasn't sure like what sort of the path the story was intended to take.
It would have been fine either way. It could have been fine 4 different ways. I could have forced you off the road. I could have made you walk to the hotel if I really wanted to do the hotel, or I was prepared to go past the hotel. And see what's in there. Now, I was pulling for you to go to the hotel because I love the story that is in the scenario.
Right.
And
I don't think it's a wrong, because you set up a scenario where like I could nope out of going to the hotel when something's up, but then it's an ice storm. It's very probable that I would then spin off the road and need to walk back.
I would not have situation.
Right.
I mean, you didn't know something was lurking in the woods, but now you've heard the noises.
Right.
So Patrick, I don't want to I know I've been talking a lot. I have another thought about this whole pacing thing, but if you need to chime in or anything, feel free.
No. Go ahead.
So to take like great horror examples, right? Like in our modern age, a modern horror movie, I feel like has to be extremely flashy and very millennial driven and hold your attention and it's got to be something you can do this, right? You have to be on your phone and still digest the story. Every year we watch Halloween.
Yeah.
And I just listened to the podcast You Are Fine. They did their Halloween episode. It was amazing. Loved hearing them talk about it.
Ready for a hot take? I don't like Halloween.
Oh, I love Halloween.
Yeah.
But
I think it's
Halloween
a terrible movie.
is boring. It is a very slow burn boring, but I love it. And I think the beauty of Halloween is you just need to sit down, you turn out all the lights, and you put your phone away, and you just embrace the boring, slow pace. To me, it is easily within my top 10 films of all time, just straight up, not even just horror. It's a comfort film, but I also have to be okay with being bored in it. And so like, that's also something of the players as well. Like, be okay. And this is me. This is my problem with Scratch is I wasn't okay with being bored in that house. Like, I guess be okay with being bored in a slow, like not everything has to be boom, 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 boom.
It's, I think the that's you're getting to the, not to draw on Aliens again, but Alien is a slow movie.
Yeah.
It's a slow 70s horror movie.
Yeah. How many minutes in before you see
Shit,
get
I
the
think
alien,
you're
right?
almost 2/3 of the way through the movie before fucking anything happens, it feels like, and I love that. It's top 5 movie. Like, or you have Aliens where something is dying
Yeah.
and screaming in your face every 5 minutes, like, or 30 seconds. Like,
That's why
it's
Alien
just
3 is the perfect blend.
shut the fuck up. Get the fucking garbage movie. I hate
Halloween's
that
not a great
movie.
movie. I don't like it.
That's fine.
I can tell you
I
why, but no, I'm just
haven't
gonna let it
seen it.
hang.
Yeah, so I think with Mystery 1, and this then probably goes back to just the importance of zero session,
Mhm.
right? Like, here's the type of mystery we're playing, and set your
Mhm.
expectations. This is not going to be a shootout every other episode. It may be
Yeah.
like slow, and like, here's some of the expectations of things you might be able to do. If you're playing Call of Cthulhu, you should tell your players, like, consider alternative resources around town for you, and like give
Mhm.
them like just set that tone, so you set the tone for your mysteries to succeed. So
And it's, I mean, it's, I think it is all about setting the expectation, right? I think that's, getting the right group, any group of players to be the right group of players, right? Like,
Mhm.
it just making sure everybody's on the same page. Like, I don't know, I want to bring this up. I don't know why I want to bring this up, but one
Alien
of my
3?
no.
No? Okay.
One of my favorite, I don't know if it's a horror movie, but thriller movies is The Menu. Did you guys see The Menu?
oh no, I haven't. I want
Oh
to.
no,
I
I
know
heard
what
it's
you're
really
talking about.
good.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
I would've watched it.
so good. And it's a slow burn, and it's about a
Yeah.
fucking restaurant. Like, and
Mhm.
it's horrible. Like, it's there's like, I mean, there's maybe 5 minutes of action in the whole movie, but it's just this growing sense of unease the entire movie.
Yeah.
But you have to go in with that expectation. If you go in expecting aliens, you're gonna be disappointed. Like, but to go in, or Midsummer, or any of the A24 horror movies,
Sure.
they're all relatively slow burn movies, right? Like, which they're all so good. I could talk for days about A24. Anyway, um, like, you got to go in with the right expectation, right? You all got to come on in the same page for, like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
expect you guys to go in to Eat the Reich, even though we've only played one session, uh expecting it to be anything but absolutely balls to the wall, ridiculous, tearing Nazis in half and drinking their blood like
Yeah.
squeezy pouches. Like, if you want to play something more like, oh, I would like to investigate the bell tower,
Right.
and go to the top of the bell tower and assassinate this one Nazi at the top of the bell tower. Like, okay, we can do that and Eat the Reich, but, like, there's needs to be 400 other things that happen between here and then, like, and at least 700 other bodies, like, so it's all about setting expectations.
Yeah, I think that's, I know I've talked about it with Art, and like, it's one of the shows that I've fallen. So Clue is a movie I fall asleep to all the time. I know we talked about Clue, but like,
I love
it's
that
like in
movie.
college we would always watch it, and I would make it 10 minutes and I was out. And then the other night when we logged off, I fired Clue up, and I
Yeah.
made I made it like 30 minutes and I was out. Then I had to watch it again. I was like, I just passed out. But one of my favorite mystery shows of all time is the slowest burn ever, and it's police procedural, but I always qualify it. And that's like important, I think, going here is like, one, you need to qualify your mysteries, and then two, you need to do all these things. So if we were to like put a bow on it, and I'm all for more thoughts, but if I were to put a bow on it, one, fatalism in mystery RPGs doesn't matter, because you're there to see the story unfold, and having everything predetermined, you can still make that be at odds with playing a game. That's okay, I think. Pacing matters. Reading your players and setting expectation matters. What doesn't always matter is the mechanics of how you do the story. It's the journey along the way.
It's friends we make along the way. I was about to ask, in that sort of put a bow on it mentality, we've all run investigative mysteries. What are the things we've learned? I mean, or what are the things we feel like we still need to figure out? I can start. Or if somebody else wants to jump in.
Go for it, Art.
I'll start by saying one thing I've learned that's really helped me. I don't know if I do it. I don't know if I run mysteries well, but one thing that I've learned that has assisted me in making it feel easier is understanding two things. One, that it's basically a list of like 5 things, and they often work backwards. It's like typical mystery storytelling. You figure out what the last thing is, and you can sort of determine. But the idea is that usually it's like knowing 4 or 5 things and knowing them pretty cold, so that when you're improvising, when you're in the story, it's sort of like the Doom track. It's you're going to need to be able to plug them in ways you might not have expected. So understand what the clue is, what those 5 things are, not where they are, not it's what is it exactly they need to know. And it's not always like they need to find the fingerprint. It's they need to find what the fingerprint represents.
Yep.
And as if you can understand what those representations are and internalize them when you're running the story, I feel like you appreciate that you need to know the butler did it, not that the butler did it with a candlestick. And so I, for me, at least, knowing like certain details really well helps me sort of separate the signal for the noise when I'm trying to juggle what's going on and how to drop something in. And something I think I don't do well is maybe sort of something similar, like in certain mysteries, when the players, you know, take everybody hostage and solve the mystery that way, I feel like, well, you know what? I was about to say, I feel like that's a failure of story, but it's not. Like, it doesn't matter how we get there. And again, it was appreciating that, like, you know, there's going to come a time where there's multiple ways to figure out the thing. And, but I do think that one thing I wish I did better is I think I tend to think I'm conveying information that I'm not actually. And so I sometimes think I might leave players confused because I feel like, oh, didn't I tell them that? Or wasn't that conveyed when this happened? And they're like, and I'm like, maybe not. So
Didn't I tell them that the butler was sleeping with the guardiansman? Like, I don't know. I'm sure that came up. Yeah, I think my big takeaway is just more of those plot devices and being flexible. Like, it's the Doom track, it's English Eerie, it's Midnight Melody, it's those things. And using them as a progression tool to keep the mystery going. Like, that would be ideal. And I need to be able to do that in pre-generated scenarios. So like Cyberpunk Red, that was a blast. What I would like to do is like revisit that at some point and use some of the stuff I've known to like keep those things kind of moving. Like, again, I ran that very much out of the book, was art goes here, art goes here, art goes here. And it's like, well, you could probably make that more exciting if Art does whatever the hell he wants and then you have the thing happen regardless. So anyways, I don't know. The plot devices pushing the tension in the room, I would say, just to be something different other than like picking up a clue and move it. I think using plot devices to push tension is something really cool that we've been doing a lot of.
Mine's pretty easy. Mine's just pacing. I struggle with reading. I get very excited. I don't know if you guys knew
we
that.
All do, though. That's
like as a GM,
right.
I have to learn to contain myself or speed myself up. Like, you know, and it's with everything, every kind of game that we play, investigations, whatever. Like, there are moments where I, as the GM, want to be like, oh yes, you're going to go talk to the printer lady at the fucking gift shop for 10 minutes. Has nothing to do with anything, but that's just a session. That's, I want to derail the whole thing and go talk through that. Or, you know, or you're going to go through I need to know and pick up on the cues of everybody. Like, yes, the rooms are empty. You guys get through the area. Like, I need to get better about pacing and reading and understanding my players.
I would say that, again, I didn't want, that was more a critique of that scenario. So
I'm not. Yeah.
As a GM, I have the same problem, right? You have all this cool information,
right,
and you want to convey all of it. And sometimes how it's presented to you is to this very procedural they do this, you show them this cool thing. They do this,
Yeah.
you show them this cool thing. You show them this, you do this cool thing, which may sound great on paper, but in play, sometimes it falls flat. Trust me.
Right.
That was fucking the genesis. Like, oh, I want to show them all of the things.
Right.
And it's awesome because but then
Yeah.
it's I feel you 100% because I'm the same way.
It's so hard, man. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this is such a cool scenario. Or, oh, this is such a cool world. Or, oh, this is a cool NPC coming up. And man, I want to share it with everybody. I want to see how the players are going to interact with it. Like, I think this is a banger tweet. Like, hey guys, listen to my demo tape. Like, and
Yeah.
and then they listen to it and it sucks. No, just kidding. But it is like maybe your players don't want to listen to the demo tape, or like
Too fucking
or it
bad.
takes them 3 other sessions to get to that demo tape, and and it's hard. So that's where the railroads come in. That's where the slinging the body back into the house comes in. Like pick your poison. Like it's hard as the GM to not get excited and want to play the game too. Which I mean, you should play the game, but
I feel like that's a level of GMing that I haven't accomplished yet.
oh yeah,
I think that's that's some really high level.
Yeah.
You're really good. Like if you're reading, like yes, sure, I say that's important, but if you're reading your players to that level, move over Matt Mercer.
Yeah,
unless you can't do voices, but Patrick, we know, can do the best.
You can do the voices, baby.
Hello.
Yeah. Can I ask just one? I don't not to drag it out too much, but a real quick question. Because you mentioned we all get excited.
Yeah.
I was just curious, what has been your best, either as a player or a GM, what has been your best mystery gaming experience? To end on like an exciting, positive Alien 3 rocks kind of moment.
Yeah. Well, that's a those two things don't go together. But I think my favorite, and I'm gonna go tug on a non Black Lodge trivia moment. But that Vason in starter scenario, first of all, is really well written. Like I can't talk highly enough. I'm really excited about the Kickstarter. I'm probably gonna get the new everything. It looks great. Tom in AAC ran like it was the one thing he did, and then he disappeared into the nether ever again. Like he ran a couple of us through Vason, the intro scenario, and it was great. Like it was a great mystery from beginning to end, and it just I had a lot of fun playing in that, and it was just that system I think does a really good job of giving you a little bit of A and a little bit of B. It walks the line. So that's a good mystery to play through. So
how about you, Matt?
Looking back, so it's interesting. Looking back, I know when I first did Fear Itself, which had the body flying back in the house, which is still like I'm gonna fucking use that anytime I can. I fucking love it. It's so creepy. Like you're walking along, you think you got her, and they just get ripped back in the house. I love that. But also, I wanted to show off every room, and I'm like, oh, this would be creepy if this happens. And so then I wanted to see it. And then I remember with Alien, which is a highlight all time of RPGing with me. That was such a fun crew. Everything was amazing. But also I subjected them to remember the lunatic android kind of guy art, like you guys were, and it was just walking down a hallway. And I think at some point it sped up where I started hand waving rooms, but it very much started out as you walk down this hallway. There's a door on your left. There's a door on your right. Now, I think it picked up eventually, but I feel like that started really slow in the, we're going to look at every single room. And then I, at some point, either just and maybe it didn't, it could be a misremembering. So the highlight though, I think is all of this rules light. Because the stories we're telling are so good there. It may not be the best RPG, but just the experience I love, and like the twists and turns they take. And like where I remember Art distinctly talking about Midnight Melody where I thought you were going one direction and then we didn't. And I loved that. I think Liminal Horror is also just the crown jewel of the rules light stuff, but I think just getting the game out of the way and just telling a good, creepy, sad, messed up story is my favorite stuff. So any of the rules light mysteries we've done, I'm going to cheat and
Nice.
Put them all in. English Eerie, Midnight Melody, and Liminal Horror.
Very nice. Those are your top. Nice. Very nice. All right. Mine's Days Vault. So I'll just make it a quick answer. Running
So
Days
good. So good. I would, anytime you want to run that ever again, that was an awesome.
Days Vault or
awesome
Days Vault
time.
England?
Lives only.
Well, England has a special place in my heart. But yeah, if we were, I would like to run Days Vault again. I feel bad saying that. I think I would ask you guys to roll up new characters.
Oh yeah, of course.
I would want to roll up a new character.
No, sorry, which mystery though? The Days Vault mystery or the Days Vault England mystery? Or just as a whole, it's all Days Vault?
Days Vault. I enjoy running that as a mystery game. It really gets the juices going. It really excites me. Yeah. So that's my top pick.
Did you read Between Two Fires? Have you read that one yet?
I have it upstairs on my nightstand.
You should.
You're gonna eat that shit up.
It's Days Vault. It's Days Vault.
It is Days Vault.
It's Bloodborne the Night.
Yeah,
I can tell you, like, I'm so bad about this. Like, I have a stack of novels like 5 feet tall that I want to read, and what ends up happening is, like, the game after the spy espionage game, I need to start figuring out the system for that. I mean, that's like a year and a half away, but I'm like, I better read 4 rule books right now. Anyway, I need to read Between Two Ferns.
Yes. I know where the red fire grows. Yes.
Anyway.
Wow, so, that joke fell flat. Okay.
I was muted. That's why you couldn't hear me laughing.
Okay.
I coughed. Did we solve it? Have we solved this issue?
Yeah, I think to at least some extent. Like, I think it gives us goals, right? And I think it's a good discussion to have because obviously mysteries are probably our jam, right?
And I think
I would play fantasy with you guys in a fucking heartbeat. Don't get me wrong. Like, I would go back to Pathfinder like that. But obviously, this is clearly something we want to enjoy and just continue to make better. It's not like, again, none of this was supposed to be it's hypercritical of Scratch and bad Call of Cthulhu scenarios,
100%.
but it's not supposed to be hypercritical of anything we've done. I think it's just a good reflection of, wow, this is something we really enjoy. Let's make it better.
Yeah. Yep. And I think it's important because, like with video games, how everything has an RPG element to it. I feel like a lot of adventures have a mystery element to it, even if it's not a mystery.
It has to.
Yeah. And so I think honing those skills serves you in any game.
Yep. 100%.
Almost any game. Because even things like Menace Under Otari, like I was saying, like it's a mystery, even though it's really a dungeon crawl. And I think, I don't know.
Cyberpunk. Mind the Gap, right? That was that was a mystery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
By
feel
the
like
way, I bought Cyberpunk today for some in session or in person.
Cyberpunk Red or the CBR?
CBR plus Punk. That's what I mean. Like,
that's a good game.
It's so good.
But I mean, Mind the Gap was just a straight up, cyberpunk, lowercase cyberpunk mystery.
Yeah. I feel like it's a skill set you can't go wrong polishing. Yeah. So anyway,
kind of gets me horned up to pull an RPG book off the shelf here. I wonder what I'm going to bed with tonight.
I was about to say, is it too late to ask one last question? I mean, it's
not for me. No,
it's the stereotypical. I need to go to bed too. It's close, but what's next for everybody? I gotta ask, what's next on the table?
Why don't you guys go first? Because you guys have like 5 games going.
I can. So, okay. The thing I was leaning to, or like at one point I came up with a, one of 2 ideas. One, oh God, I just thought of the third one that might be really fun. But the thing that sort of started creeping to the front of my mind is that I had come up with sort of my own like fantasy setting to a degree. And I was trying to figure out what rule set to use because I feel badly choosing a rule set that lets you play lizard lemurs and then saying, can you please only play humans or elves? Like I feel bad doing that, but the systems I want to try and play around with, and the beauty of the homemade setting is you can switch systems at any time. But, so I was looking at Fantasy Age 2nd edition, but you can play wildlings, which are like lemurs. And I'm just like, okay. and then part of me is like, or maybe I just like, who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But so that's what I was,
but it does.
Yeah. I'll say this. It only matters because it helps me picture it.
Sure.
When I'm trying to think of stuff.
Just picture just picture Matt in a furry suit. It'll be fine.
We should all pick something that we're uncomfortable with playing, like make art do a fantasy or sci-fi setting with only mythological creatures.
Only
Yeah.
No
aliens.
humans.
Are we all centaurs?
Yeah. No, centaur's too human. It's gotta be more weird. Like we're
okay.
all leshies or something like that. I don't know.
God.
I think like my nightmare there would be doing like a military
Mm.
oh, what's
Like Twilight or
Twilight?
whatever.
Yeah, like Twilight sounds like my hell a little bit
Yeah.
sometimes.
Running it or playing it, or doesn't matter?
Running it.
Okay.
Running it, yeah.
Okay. I actually have an idea for a Twilight 2000 adventure, but I don't know what I'll do with it. How about you?
Let's do Patrick.
For what question? What part of the question? Which
What's
which
the excitement
question?
of next? Because you could be wrapping Eat the Reich up in a few sessions.
Technically, Eat the Reich, it was at a stopping point.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of say that the Shepherd's Crook maybe
Really?
maybe coming out for.
Is it just because you want something new and you haven't felt the horn for Eat the Reich? Because I had no problems with it. I mean, it's kind
I
of a
didn't
weird
either.
system to run. It's more like it's like video game and feel with how you progress from
Mhm.
scenes. But other than that, I mean, I love it.
I really enjoyed it. Do you know what killed it for me?
Hmm.
And this is the hot take of the thing. I absolutely do not want to run it in alchemy.
I'm not gonna lie. I get it. Like I
I
really
have-
get it.
Tonight's
Playing-
episode is brought to you by Alchemy. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Roll20. We're not Alchemy.
Playing one session in alchemy.
Mhm.
I don't want to go back to it. Like it really has killed that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
And
So-
like I hate to say that, but
So that
it was
means you have to
painful.
commit to something. Because like
it'll be Deadlands. It'll be Deadlands.
Art is running a spy game, and we're in the middle of an English Erie session.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it'll be Deadlands.
That's
Yeah?
awesome.
Yeah. It'll be Deadlands. It'll be time. We need to go back to Savage Worlds. It's been like it's been too long since we played Savage Worlds. So
Yeah. This is I feel bad saying this. I wanted to specifically run Vaesen in alchemy, so Matt and I did it in alchemy.
Mhm.
And at the end of it, I think we talked a little bit about like, like alchemy, maybe not, and so on. But I feel bad because I actually had a lot of other thoughts. I didn't care for it.
No. Nope.
And I
I've
don't
only
feel
seen it on the player side.
what's that?
I've only seen it on the player side.
Okay, yeah, I did not care for it at all as the GM.
Horrific.
And I don't feel bad saying that because I back them at a high level, so
Yep.
I feel like I'm allowed. Like I paid a lot of money. I'm a customer, and it just I really at the moment I don't care for it.
I didn't back it at a high level. I didn't back it at all. I pay for it a little bit with Eat the Reich.
Yeah.
I did back Eat the Reich at a high level and was very excited to play Eat the Reich, and at some point we'll play it somewhere else. But one session in on alchemy absolutely just torpedoed that. And I am happy to admit at this point that my fire is dampened completely. So
This is a good reminder for our listeners that all the visual effects that happen in, other than the minimalist like presentation as a whole, but the visual moving maps and moving graphics and moving background graphics, all of that can be accomplished in Foundry if you get the right files. Like I've gotten Patreon files that are when Art and I played Cyberpunk Red, like it was, there was techno lights going off, and you can do all of those things in your preferred, unless you're playing Fantasy Grounds. I think there's still like playing like by log files that you mail to each other or publish in a newspaper or something.
I got to tell you, at some point, I am going to run something in Fantasy Grounds.
Yeah, but don't we all have to buy like a $50 membership just to? I know. I'm just
no, because I backed at the top level, baby.
Right, baby.
Players Club,
because I'm their sole customer.
Right. So yeah,
Fantasy Grounds brought to you by Art.
Yeah. Art keeps Fantasy Grounds and what's that World War II? Panzer Grenadier afloat all on his own.
Classics, absolute stone cold classics.
All right, so my next up, I don't know.
It's not.
I don't know.
Delta?
It's been so long. Like my honk levels go up and down on everything I do. The thing, like going through Cyberpunk, the CBR plus Punk has got me excited for it. But I don't know, because like, is it gonna be when it hits? Are we gonna be Delta Green horny or not? I don't know. So I don't want to. I need to. I need to know that Matt, you're up and you're going at this time. You got to get something together.
I'm happy to
And this
see
is not
my
a comment
place
on
in
Delta
line.
Green. If it's Delta Green, I'm good to go. I can't wait to do Delta Green, but also I just know the person I am. So like, if you ask me today, it's Delta Green, but I'm not running something tomorrow.
And also, I'm happy, like I said, the spy game part of the story takes place in England, Finland.
We have to see Finland.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say, but the stopping
we
point.
have to see
okay,
Finland.
okay. I was gonna say is before Finland. So anyway,
Yeah.
all right.
That's when it kicks over to Vaesen, right? That's when the spy game turns into Vaesen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good.
I don't know.
All
There's
right.
nothing that Delta Green, sure.
Perfect.
That was your excitement levels have me off the chain.
It's not a critique of my or like a waning level in excitement. It's just like we've been saying Delta Green for 6 months.
Oh, we've been saying eat the Reich for 6 months too, and here we are.
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just nut up and play some damn games sometime.
We should just go back to Pathfinder. Let's
But
just go
that
back
day
to
is not
Pathfinder.
today.
That night was not tonight. That's right.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
Folks, I hope you enjoyed the discussion. I know it's not our normal episode, but hopefully it's a nice little break from the actual plays. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. I know it's a lot of circular talk and circle jerking going on over here, but I enjoyed the discussion, and I think I really did come away with it of trying to find ways of how to manage pacing for exciting storytelling, and how to make the best mystery. So hopefully there was something of value there. At least not, then maybe you at least have an inkling of which episode of The Simpsons it may or may not have been that was on Twin Peaks, or you walked away and said, just don't use AI. I don't know. But folks, I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're on Spotify. So if you want, that's where our podcast is hosted. Don't forget to go subscribe on Spotify and give us a review or leave a comment on Spotify. Any of that helps. Feel free to do whatever you want. Of course, if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. And most importantly, if you want to come hang out with us, pop into our Discord. We just scheduled a game getting back to Dragonbane, which I am.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited for.
Yeah.
When we got our message today about scheduling a Dragonbane game, I was like, oh, hell yeah, let's go. Let's start looking at the classes again. And then I was looking at some of the fan made and expand, like the magazine classes. I'm like, oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
So yeah, podcast wherever you listen to us, join the Discord, follow us on YouTube, do all the things. We appreciate it. Hope everyone has a good night.
Take it easy.
Peace.